Dajjal Ki Fitna, as explained in the light of the Qur'an and authentic Ahadees, represents the greatest and most dangerous trial humanity will ever face, a deception so powerful and all-encompassing that the Prophet Muhammad repeatedly warned his Ummah about it with deep seriousness, stating clearly that from the time of Adam until the day of judgment, there will be no trial greater than the trial of Dajjal, and this warning alone shows that Dajjal is not a symbolic idea or a minor end-time event but a real, living human being whose appearance will shake the foundations of faith across the entire world, because the word Dajjal itself comes from the Arabic root dajjal, meaning to deceive, to lie excessively, and to mix truth with falsehood in such a convincing way that people willingly accept deception as guidance. And this is exactly how Dajjal's fitna will work, not by openly opposing truth but by disguising falsehood in the language of reform, justice, peace, and progress, which is why so many people, including those who consider themselves educated and intelligent, will follow him without realizing they are walking towards spiritual destruction. And although the Qur'an does not mention Dajjal by name, his fitna is repeatedly described through indirect warnings about deception, false leaders and trials of faith, especially in Surah Al-Kahf, which the Prophet emphasized as protection against Dajjal, advising believers to memorize and recite its verses, because within this surah Allah presents four major trials: the trial of faith through the people of the cave, the trial of wealth through the owner of two gardens, the trial of knowledge through the story of Musa, as, and Kidda, as, and the trial of power through Dul-Qanain. And Dajjal's fitna will combine all of these trials into one overwhelming test, attacking belief through fear, hunger, authority, knowledge, and comfort at the same time. And the Prophet did not leave the Ummah in confusion about who Dajjal is, as he provided a clear and unmistakable physical description so that believers would recognize him, explaining that Dajjal will be one-eyed, with his right eye blind or defective, that his hair will be curly, his body strong and stocky, and that the word kafir will be written on his forehead in a way that every true believer will be able to read it, whether literate or illiterate, proving that spiritual clarity is greater than worldly education. And the Prophet emphasized that Allah is perfect and not one-eyed, while Dajjal's physical imperfection exposes the falsehood of his claim to divinity. Because Dajjal will not immediately claim to be God, but will first appear as a reformer, then as a leader, then as a miracle worker, and finally will openly declare himself to be the Lord of mankind. And at that stage his deception will be supported by extraordinary events that Allah allows to happen as a test, such as commanding the sky to rain and the earth to produce crops for those who follow him, while withholding rain and food from those who reject him, causing famine and hunger among believers and comfort and luxury among his followers. And he will travel the world at incredible speed, reaching every place except Mecca and Medina, which will be protected by angels. And he will bring what appears to be paradise and hell with him, but in reality his paradise will be hell and his hell will be paradise. And he will order people to believe in him in exchange for safety, food, and wealth, making faith extremely difficult to hold on to during his time. And this is why the Prophet taught specific supplications to seek refuge from the fitna of Dajjal in every prayer, reminding believers to ask Allah for protection from the punishment of hell, the punishment of the grave, the trials of life and death, and the evil of the fitna of Dajjal, because knowledge alone will not be enough if faith is weak. And throughout Islamic history, scholars have explained that Dajjal's greatest weapon will not be his physical miracles, but psychological manipulation, exploiting fear, desperation, and desire, especially in a world already filled with moral confusion, material obsession, and weakened belief. And this is why many signs before the appearance of Dajjal include ignorance spreading, knowledge being lifted, dishonesty becoming common, trust being broken, and people valuing material success over spiritual truth, all of which prepare the ground for his deception. And when Dajjal finally appears, the world will already be spiritually fragile, making his lies feel logical and his false promises feel necessary. But despite the severity of his fitna, Islam does not leave humanity without hope, because the Ahadees clearly state that Dajjal's reign will be limited, lasting only 40 days, one day like a year, one day like a month, one day like a week, and the rest like normal days. And at the height of his deception, Allah will send Isa, who will descend near the White Minaret in Damascus, pray behind the Mahdi, and confront Dajjal, ultimately killing him at the Gate of Lud, proving that falsehood, no matter how powerful, can never defeat truth permanently. And this ending itself teaches believers a powerful lesson that fitna is temporary while truth is eternal, and that survival during the time of Dajjal will not depend on strength, intelligence, or miracles, but on sincerity of faith, knowledge of the Qur'an and Sunnah, humility before Allah, and unwavering belief that Allah alone is the creator, sustainer, and true Lord of the worlds. And therefore the real message of Dajjal's fitna is not fear but preparation, because the Prophet did not want us to scare us, but to protect us, reminding us that the strongest shield against deception is Iman, the strongest weapon against falsehood is knowledge, and the safest refuge against the greatest trial in history is turning sincerely to Allah before the world turns upside down.